The sinister truth behind the lizard man. It stalked more than just the swamp. On a humid July night in 1988, 17-year-old Christopher Davis pulled his car onto a narrow dirt road just outside Bishopville, South Carolina. The air was thick with the scent of marsh and the drone of insects when his headlights caught something unnatural. Two glowing red eyes, set far apart, hovering above the ditch. What stepped into view wasn't a man, nor an animal he could name. It was 7 feet tall, scaled like an alligator, with hands ending in long, razor-sharp claws. And it was moving toward him. Before we go further, make sure you subscribe, leave a like, and comment below. Your support keeps these hidden truths alive, and there's more to this story than you've ever been told. What happened next would ignite one of America's strangest modern legends. Police reports, shredded car metal, and panicked eyewitnesses all painted the same impossible picture. But the most chilling detail was whispered among locals. The lizard man didn't just haunt Scape or swamp. It followed its prey. From lonely backroads to the edges of town, something was watching. And if the accounts are true, it might still be watching today. Christopher Davis's encounter became the heartbeat of the story locals still tell around campfires. In this version, the lizard man is less an apex predator and more strange, misunderstood creature bound to the swamp. Eyewitnesses describe it emerging from the murky waters under the moonlight, its wet scales gleaming like dark emeralds. It's said to attack cars, rip at metal with inhuman strength, and vanish back into the reeds before anyone can react. The police plastered warnings on bulletin boards, and television crews descended on Bishopville, eager to capture a glimpse of the swamp monster. In these retellings, the danger is real but contained, as long as you stay out of Scape or swamp after dark. Tourists came from miles away, scanning the water's edge with binoculars, hoping for a scaled head to rise above the cattails. Local shops sold t-shirts, mugs, and even lizard man burgers. The creature became both a threat and a mascot, its silhouette painted on signs welcoming visitors. People spoke with a mix of fear and pride, claiming their town was home to something no one else could claim. And in this polished version, the lizard man never left his domain. The swamp was his kingdom, and trespassers were the only ones in danger. Children would dare each other to walk the dirt roads at night, their flashlights trembling in hand. Most returned laughing, but few swore they heard heavy footsteps in the brush, or saw eyes gleaming in the dark. These tales kept the legend alive, transforming it into a rite of passage for the brave and the foolish alike. The lizard man became a symbol of local identity, his legend a badge of small-town mystery. Reporters spun the tale into a classic monster story, an isolated environment, a creature perfectly adapted to it, and a town living under a quiet, manageable threat. The police chief would smile in interviews, assuring people that as long as they stayed out of the swamp, they had nothing to fear. This portrayal calmed nerves while keeping curiosity alive, feeding a steady stream of visitors and amateur monster hunters. In this well-packaged narrative, the lizard man was the perfect blend of danger and tourism, a beast who respected the boundaries of his home. Or so people wanted to believe, because behind the laughter, behind the souvenirs, there were whispers that the swamp wasn't enough to hold him, and those whispers were about to get louder. Analista Part 1. Esta abertura apresenta lenda de forma comunicativa, mantendo o tom nostálgico e intrigante como esperado para historia conhecida. OS Mini Cliffhangers Esteo presents, especialmente no último parágrafo, plantando a semente de que a criatura pode ter rompido seus limites. A transiqueo para Part 2 esta fluida, pois cria uma dúvida que só será respondida ao explorar o contexto histórico e cultural. Neo ha redundâncias. Cada parágrafo adiciona uma nova camada. Atenção é suave, mais crescente, ideal para manter a audiência curiosa. Bishopville, South Carolina, is a small rural town surrounded by farmland, pine forests, and marshes that seem to swallow sound. Scape or swamp itself is a tangled web of muddy channels and reed-choked pools, an environment that hides wildlife, and perhaps more, from a human eye. Long before Christopher Davis's story hit headlines, the swamp had a reputation for strange occurrences. Hunters whisper of unnatural rustling. Fishermen spoke of ripples without a source, and farmers claimed to lose livestock without a trace. These weren't just modern rumors. Some accounts date back to the 19th century, when settlers reported seeing green men lurking near the water. The area's culture is steeped in oral storytelling, where fact and fiction intertwine without clear borders. Local elders spoke of protective swamp spirits in Native American traditions, guardians of the wetlands who punished those who trespassed. Over time, these spirits became less benevolent in the retellings, morphing into vengeful, monstrous figures. It's here that the seeds of the lizard man's myth may have taken root. The swamp, in this cultural memory, was never just land. It was an entity with rules, and breaking them invited consequences. In the mid-20th century, the swamp was also a hiding place for outlaws and bootleggers, further adding to its mystique. Moonshine stills were hidden deep in the reeds, and locals learned to stay away, not out of superstition, but for safety. These criminal shadows may have blended into the legend, giving the lizard man a more tangible menace, a predator of both myth and flesh. This mingling of the criminal and the supernatural blurred the lines so well that even law enforcement quietly admitted some reports were hard to explain. By the 1980s, Bishopville was struggling economically, with dwindling job opportunities and a fading sense of community pride. The lizard man's sudden appearance offered both fear and opportunity, a modern monster that could draw attention back to a forgotten town. But the attention came at a cost. As more stories emerged, the creature's hunting ground seemed to expand beyond the swamp, reaching into places where it had never been seen before. Witnesses reported encounters on farm roads miles from the wetlands, suggesting it wasn't bound to its home. This shifting narrative planted a disturbing question. If the swamp was once the creature's boundary, why was it crossing it now? And if it could leave the swamp, there was no telling where it might appear next or who its next target might be. The polished campfire stories left out the ugliest parts. The earliest police records from 1988 don't describe a shy swamp dweller, but a relentless predator. Christopher Davis's statement, buried in dusty case files, included details news anchors omitted. The creature didn't just chase him. It circled his car, scraped at the door handle, and hissed in a low, almost human tone. When he drove away, it ran alongside him for nearly a quarter mile before vanishing into the dark. That night, deep gouges in the metal and traces of something green and viscous clung to the vehicle. Other reports from that summer tell of livestock torn apart with surgical precision, organs missing as if harvested. Farmers woke to find footprints three-toed and deep, leading away from the bodies into the reeds. These cases were quickly dismissed as coyotes in the official record, but the bite marks didn't match. Witnesses who insisted otherwise often retracted their statements after late-night visits from officials who urged them to stop talking. In one unpublicized incident, a group of teenagers dared each other to camp on the swamp's edge. Only 3 returned. The fourth, a boy named Matthew Cole, was found wandering miles away at dawn barefoot, clothes shredded, eyes wide and unresponsive. He never spoke again. His parents moved away within weeks, and their house was abandoned, left to rot under the weight of silence. Local hunters whisper about seeing the creature far from Scape or stalking deer in dry fields under a blood moon. One even claimed it watched him from the tree line, standing perfectly still as if deciding whether to step forward. The implication was chilling. The swamp wasn't its prison, it was its nest. And now it was hunting outward. By the time the media frenzy died down, the official story had been neatly folded back into a harmless local legend. But the real pattern, the disappearances, the mutilations, the expanding territory had already been set. The lizard man didn't fade away. It simply learned to be quieter. Legends endure because they speak to something deeper than the surface details. Stripped of its scales and claws, the lizard man can be seen as the embodiment of an ancient fear. The idea that nature is watching and will punish those who exploit it. In local Native American traditions, swamp spirits were guardians of balance, and the lizard man may be their modern, corrupted echo. His scaled skin mirrors the environment he rules, a living camouflage that reminds intruders they don't belong. The silence in official records, the lost files and retracted statements, suggest another layer, a fear not just of creature but of truth itself. When people are silenced, either by intimidation or by their own unwillingness to remember, the monster thrives in the shadows. In this way, the lizard man becomes a metaphor for collective denial, the danger we agree not to see, so we can keep living comfortably. The physical proof, claw marks, footprints, shredded metal. functions like ritual tokens in old folk tales, objects that carry the weight of warning. To believers, they are relics of survival. To skeptics, they are puzzles without answers. Yet both groups are bound by the same unease. Something left these marks. It wasn't supposed to exist. Psychologically, the lizard man plays into a primal archetype, the predator at the edge of the village. He's the danger you can't quite banish, the shadow you hope will stay in its place, knowing it never truly will. This resonates with modern fears. Crime that crosses safe boundaries, diseases that leap borders, disasters that ignore maps. The swamp is a stand-in for any place we convince ourselves will contain the threat, until it doesn't. In that sense, the lizard man's greatest weapon isn't his strength or speed. It's his ability to make you doubt the ground under your feet. The more you convince yourself he's only in the swamp, the easier it is for him to step quietly into your world. And once he's there, you might not even notice until it's too late. The story of the lizard man isn't just about a creature in a swamp. It's about the boundaries we draw to feel safe and what happens when those boundaries fail. In Bishopville, the legend became a kind of mirror, reflecting both the town's pride in its mystery and its fear of the unknown. For some, it's a marketing tool. For others, a warning carved into memory. And for a few, it's a trauma they'll never speak of again. What makes this tale endure is not the question of whether the lizard man exists, but the undeniable fact that something happened. Something that left scars on cars, fields, and people. The official silence only makes the unease grow, like ripples spreading across Blackwater. The swamp may be quiet now, but quiet doesn't mean safe. In the end, every generation decides what to do with its monsters. We can turn them into mascots, into myths, into jokes, or we can remember why they frightened us in the first place. Because ignoring a shadow doesn't erase it, it only lets it move closer. So the next time you find yourself on a lonely road near Scape or swamp, remember the red eyes in the dark, and ask yourself, what if it's not the swamp he's coming from anymore? Some doors once opened never close, and some footsteps once heard never truly fade.